Hey gang, Mark LeBlanc welcoming you back to the Alley Cat workshop. I just completed work on this very elegant desktop lectern. Now there's two major components in this lectern. There is the lectern itself, so that's a backboard and a lip. In my case, I built it out of pieces of wood that I had in the shop. I'm not even sure what this piece is, but I know this is spalted maple, so is this, the lip at the bottom. So that's the first part. And I'm not going to cover how to build this because overall it's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. It's just make a board, attach a lip to it, life is good. What I'm going to focus on though is on this system at the back that holds the lectern upright. Now it is made out of, in this case, a single piece of plywood that I cut into 5 different components. The 2 outside components hold a brass bar that is used to determine the angle of the lectern. This brass bar, or this system, actually pivots on the 2 middle sections, and these sections are actually bolted or screwed into the back of the lectern itself. So these pieces don't move. Now there's a 5th component, which is this middle piece, which folds neatly into place so that if you need to carry this around, then the lectern itself folds into a very compact, package. Now, I still need to put some finish on the back system and attach it permanently, and also glue some of the brass components in their proper places. But that's where I'm at right now, and I would like to show you how to build something similar if you are interested in building a desktop lectern. So let's go back a little bit in time and see what you need to do to get to this point.
I took a scrap piece of plywood that was almost the same height as my lectern to do this project. And you can use anything in your shop as long as you end up with 5 pieces that are roughly the same length. Now the width of my pieces are as follows. So 3/4 inch for the 2 outside pieces, 1.5 for the intermediate pieces, and 2 3/8 for the middle piece. Once I had my pieces cut, I clamped them together, making sure that the pieces were in the correct order, i.e., for example, the outside pieces were in fact outside, etc. And I went to the bandsaw to add a decorative arch on the top. This is purely for aesthetics. Then I used my drum sander just to clean up the cut. Next I used a 3/8 inch dado blade to cut 4 grooves on one of the faces of the middle piece. Now I started this with a 3/8 inch offset on my fence, and once I cut the first groove I moved my fence by 3/4 inches, and then did the same for the 3rd and the 4th. So 3/4 of an inch for each of the cut. That was the offset, or the increment rather. The depth of cut is roughly half the thickness of the board. You remember a bit earlier when I said that all the pieces were roughly the same length. Those 3 middle pieces have to be shorter. In my case, I decided to make them 3/4 of an inch shorter. So I'm using my miter saw to make that adjustment here. Next, I return to my drum sander to round out the edges that will be pivot points in the entire contraption. Now I have to round up the bottom of the middle piece and the tops of both outside pieces. Next, I took careful measurements and marked with my owl where I wanted my brass pieces to be. I then figured out the thickness of the brass tubing and used a corresponding brad point bit to drill out all the holes at my drill press. And finally, I used my hacksaw to cut the brass pieces.
Alright, so I've done a quick assembly of the whole system, and let me show you how it works. There's really two main pivot points. The first one is between the center piece and the two side pieces. The two side pieces will be screwed into the back of the lectern. So this piece moves like this, and you've got the slots to be able to accept this piece of brass. So the way it works is that you lift this guy, then the middle piece, and then you hang this piece into the groove. It goes, the lectern is going to go somewhat like this on its side. Now let me show you something that you might need to do in terms of adjustments. All right, so like I said, I did a dry assembly. Now, if I lift this first piece, watch what happens when it gets to a certain point. I don't know if you can see that, but it's actually, the point here is actually touching the top of my workbench, and it's actually pushing the three middle pieces higher. This is easy to fix. All you need to do is go back to the drum sander and remove a little bit more material on this face or on the corner. On that face, it's better. And just round it up a little bit more so that it doesn't come into play. That's all you need to do. But you might need to do this adjustment. I had to do it for the middle piece. That's already done. You see this is flipping around perfectly without any problems. But these two guys I gotta adjust a little bit. Easy fix. Once this is done, quick sanding, put some stain, put a couple of coats of finish, and assemble the piece to the back of the lectern. It's coming together.
I didn't have double-sided tape handy, so I just used masking tape in this case. And what I did is I used that tape to temporarily place the two intermediate pieces on the back of the lectern. And what that allowed me to do was to pre-drill pilot holes for my screws. And finally, I can do a dry assembly. Now, in the end, I secured the brass using CA glue. Important: for a given pivot point, don't put glue on both sides, just one. If you put glue on both sides of the pivot point, you're effectively going to remove the word pivot in this phrase. Not good. Anyways, thanks for watching, folks. If you like this, please hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't done so. It really helps the channel. And leave me a comment. I'd love to hear from you. Take care and see you soon.